The large silver ship hovered silently above the United Nations building in New York. It had been 10 years since that day in 2037, when the Valdurans first arrived on Earth. 10 years of careful diplomacy, cultural exchanges, and growing trust between humans and the alien alliance. Dr. Alan Pierce stared out the window of the shuttle as it approached the much larger Valduran vessel named Harmony Seeker. His heart beat faster with excitement and nervousness. At 42 years old, the anthropologist never imagined he would study an alien culture firsthand. "First time visiting the Valduran ship?" asked the shuttle pilot. "Yes," Alan replied, adjusting his glasses. "I've met their diplomats on Earth, but this is different." The shuttle docked smoothly. When the door opened, Alan was greeted by an alien with pale blue skin, large almond-shaped eyes, and 4 slender arms. Ambassador Zoltek stood a foot taller than Alan. "Welcome, Dr. Pierce," the ambassador said in perfect English. "Your reputation as a scholar of cultures precedes you. We are honored to have you join our exchange program." Alan smiled and bowed, slightly. "The honor is mine, Ambassador. Thank you for this opportunity." Zoltek led Alan through corridors filled with aliens of different shapes and sizes. All were members of the Valduran Alliance, a peaceful coalition of species from across the galaxy. "Our alliance has thrived for thousands of years without warfare," Zoltek explained proudly. "We evolved without the predatory instincts that plague many worlds. When we discovered Earth, we approached with caution. Your historical records showed violence. But your present is so peaceful. It gives us hope for all evolving species." Alan nodded politely but said nothing. He knew the truth was more complicated. Humans hadn't suddenly become peaceful. They had simply gotten better at hiding their warlike nature for these diplomatic exchanges. The ambassador showed Alan to his quarters, a comfortable room with a window looking out into space. "Rest now. Tonight we have a welcome dinner for all new human delegates." At dinner, Alan met Lisa Wright, a 35-year-old historian with short brown hair and thoughtful eyes. She specialized in military history but had been carefully selected for this exchange. "Quite a view, isn't it?" she said, joining Alan by the large window overlooking Earth. "Breathtaking," Alan agreed. "Have you been briefed on what we can and cannot discuss with our hosts?" Lisa lowered her voice. 3 hours of instructions. No mentioning wars, violent sports, or even children's games that involve competition. Director Simmons made it very clear. As if summoned by his name, Frank, Simmons appeared beside them. Tall and imposing with gray hair, the director of Earth's diplomatic mission had a forced smile. "I see you two have met. Good." His smile vanished as he leaned closer. "Remember why we're here. The Valdurans control access to 17 inhabited worlds and technology centuries beyond ours. We need this alliance. They value peace above all else and are disturbed by violence, so we give them what they want to see." "A sanitized version of humanity," Lisa whispered. Simmons's eyes hardened. "A diplomatic version. We all have family histories we don't share on first dates." After he walked away, Alan and Lisa exchanged glances. Neither looked comfortable with the deception. The next morning, Alan began his work. The Valdurans had invited humans to participate in a grand cultural exhibition where species from across the galaxy would showcase their civilizations through art, music, and historical records. Alan's job was to help select which aspects of human culture to present. Each item was reviewed by Simmons first. Anything showing conflict was rejected. "No chess," Simmons said, reviewing Alan's list. "It's based on warfare." "It's just a board game," Alan protested, "with kings, queens, and pawns, sacrificed in battle. No chess, no football, no boxing. Nothing that shows humans enjoy watching conflict or competition." Days passed as Alan helped prepare Earth's exhibition. He worked closely with a young Valduran researcher named Eliza, who asked endless questions about Earth. "Your species evolved from predators, correct?" she asked while they cataloged samples of Earth music. "Yet you have no hunting festivals or war dances. Most predator species celebrate their nature." Alan chose his words carefully. We've moved beyond our origins. Eliza tilted her head, her large eyes blinking slowly. Fascinating. Evolution typically takes millions of years, yet humans transformed completely in mere centuries. One evening, Alan found himself in a less monitored section of the ship. He overheard two Valduran scientists talking around a corner. The genetic profile makes no sense, one said. Their teeth, muscle structure, adrenal system, all indicate a pursuit predator with pack-hunting behaviors. Perhaps they evolved quickly, suggested the other. Impossible. Their biology shows constant readiness for conflict. Their stress responses, adrenaline production, even their vision systems are optimized for detecting threats and engaging in combat. Yet they present themselves as peaceful artists and philosophers. Could they be hiding their true nature? Why would they? Unless, Alan held his breath, unless they fear our reaction. The Council forbids alliance with predator species that haven't evolved beyond violence. That night, Alan couldn't sleep. He watched Earth through his window, thinking about the grand deception they were perpetrating. Humans hadn't evolved beyond violence. They had simply channeled it into controlled outlets like sports, business competition, and entertainment. The door chimed. It was Lisa. Can't sleep either? She asked, entering his room. Alan shook his head. I'm an anthropologist. I'm supposed to study cultures honestly, not help hide who we are. Lisa sat beside him. I know. I'm a military historian being asked to pretend human history had no wars. Do you think this deception is necessary? Lisa sighed. I don't know, but I overheard something today. The Valdurans aren't just peaceful by choice, they're physically different. They never evolved fear responses or territorial instincts. Violence actually makes them physically ill. So if they knew the truth about humans, they might isolate Earth completely, Lisa finished. The next day, during a presentation about Earth music, a Valduran asked about certain rhythms that appeared in many human compositions. They resemble heartbeats during pursuit, the alien observed innocently. Director Simmons stepped in smoothly. Many of our rhythms derive from peaceful activities like walking or dancing. Later, Simmons pulled Alan aside. The cultural exhibition opens in 3 months. A filmmaker named Olivia Martinez is creating a documentary about humanity for it. You'll help ensure it shows only our peaceful aspects. Alan nodded reluctantly. As Simmons walked away, Alan wondered how long humans could keep up this charade. Sooner or later, the truth would emerge. And when it did, how would the peace-loving Valdurans react to discovering they had invited predators into their midst? 3 months passed aboard the Valduran ship. Alan grew more familiar with the curving hallways and the soft blue light that filled every room. Yet he felt a constant tension, like an actor who could never step off stage. One morning he found Eliza waiting outside his quarters. The young Valduran researcher held a tablet filled with human expressions. Dr. Pierce, may I ask about these phrases I discovered in your literature? Her large eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of confusion Alan had learned to recognize. He looked at her list and immediately felt uneasy. Fought tooth and nail. Killer instinct. Battle of wits. No holds barred. Hit the ground running. All common expressions that revealed humanity's competitive, sometimes violent nature. These are just figures of speech, Alan said carefully. Old sayings that have lost their original meanings. Eliza tilted her head. Many reference conflict or hunting behaviors. Yet your delegation says humans evolved beyond such activities long ago. Language evolves slower than culture, Alan replied, hoping she would accept the explanation. That afternoon, Alan met Lisa in the ship's garden, a peaceful space filled with plants from a dozen worlds. They sat beside a bubbling fountain, speaking quietly. The Valdurans are starting to notice inconsistencies, Lisa said. Yesterday, Ambassador Zoltek asked me why historical records of human population show sudden drops that don't match reported natural disasters. Wars, Alan said. Lisa nodded. Wars we're pretending never happened. How long can we keep this up? Simmons received a message from Earth yesterday. Apparently the documentary for the exhibition is causing problems. Alan frowned. What kind of problems? The filmmaker, Olivia Martinez, keeps including content the diplomatic team finds too revealing about human nature. Meanwhile, on Earth, Olivia Martinez sat in her editing room surrounded by screens. At 41, she had built her career documenting human triumphs over adversity. Her current project, The Human Spirit, was meant to showcase humanity's best qualities for the Galactic exhibition. "Play the veteran interview again," she told her assistant Ryan Cortez. On screen, an older man with one prosthetic leg spoke with pride. "When our unit was surrounded, we didn't give up. That's the human way. We fight hardest when our backs are against the wall." Ryan paused the footage. Director Simmons already rejected this section. He said no military content whatsoever. Olivia pushed her curly hair back in frustration. "But this is who we are. Our determination in the face of challenges is our defining trait. They want a documentary about peace-loving humans who spend their time making art and tending gardens. That's not the whole truth." Ryan shrugged. "Truth isn't the goal. Diplomatic relations are." That evening, Olivia received another message from Director Simmons listing sections to cut. She stared at her screens showing sports competitions, debate tournaments, and even children playing tag, all deemed too competitive or aggressive for Valduran's sensibilities. With a deep sigh, she began creating 2 versions of her documentary: the sanitized official version and a complete one that showed humanity's true spirit, determination, competitiveness, and yes, even aggression channeled into productive pursuits. Back on the Valduran ship, Alan entered the alien library. He had been given access to study Valduran history, but found himself growing curious about their evolution. If humans had evolved as predators, what had shaped the Valdurans? He discovered that their homeworld had few predator species. Instead, it suffered frequent natural disasters, storms, floods, and geological events. The Valdurans evolved not through competition, but through cooperation to survive these disasters. Their bodies never developed adrenaline rushes or the capacity for sustained aggression because they never needed to fight or flee from predators. Violence literally made them ill because their bodies had no biological framework for it. Their evolution had taken an entirely different path from humanity's. Alan was so absorbed in his reading that he didn't notice Eliza's approach. "Studying our origins?" she asked. Alan jumped slightly. "Yes, it's fascinating how environment shapes evolution." "Indeed." Eliza sat beside him. "Did you know I've been granted special access to Earth broadcast signals? As a cultural researcher, I'm allowed to study your media directly." Alan felt a chill. "What have you found interesting?" Eliza's voice lowered. "I watched something called boxing yesterday, and hockey, and historical documentaries about something called World War II. Alan said nothing, his heart pounding. "Your people are predators, Dr. Pierce. Yet you're not mindless killers as some predator species are. You channel your aggression. You create rules for it. You've built art and ritual around it." Her eyes showed not fear, but fascination. "Why hide this?" Before Alan could answer, his tablet chimed with a message from Simmons. "Exhibition preparation meeting. Immediate attendance required." In the meeting room, Simmons introduced a hologram of Olivia Martinez from Earth. "Ms. Martinez has completed the official documentary for our exhibition. We'll review it now." The lights dimmed as the documentary began playing. It showed beautiful scenes of human cooperation, scientists working together, artists creating, farmers tending fields, doctors healing the sick. Nowhere did it show competition, conflict, or struggle. "This is what the Valdurans will see," Simmons said proudly. After the meeting, Lisa caught up with Alan in the hallway. "That documentary is a lie," she whispered. "A diplomatic lie," Alan replied. "Is there a difference?" Lisa looked troubled. "The Valdurans are sharing their true culture with us, their real history, their actual biology, and we're giving them a fairy tale in return." "What's the alternative? Show them we're descended from predators and watch them end the alliance?" Lisa stopped walking. Maybe honesty is better in the long run. What happens when they inevitably discover the truth? Won't that be worse? That night, Alan couldn't sleep. He thought about what Eliza had said. Perhaps humans' unique trait wasn't violence, but how they had channeled their predatory instincts into creativity, exploration, and protected competition. On Earth, Olivia finished the final version of her official documentary. Then, late at night, she completed her unofficial version, the honest one. She labeled it clearly, "The True Human Spirit, Not for Exhibition." She didn't notice Ryan watching from the doorway, his face thoughtful. 3 weeks later, the Valduran Cultural Exhibition prepared to open. Ships arrived from across the galaxy. Hundreds of species would share their cultures, histories, and arts. No one knew that Ryan Cortez had secretly obtained a copy of Olivia's honest documentary. No one knew he had smuggled it aboard a supply ship to the exhibition. And no one knew he had access to the Valduran broadcasting system. As Alan stood beside Ambassador Zoltek awaiting the exhibition's opening ceremony, he had no idea that humanity's carefully constructed peaceful image was about to shatter completely. The Valduran capital city glowed with soft blue and green lights as thousands of visitors arrived for the cultural exhibition. Massive white buildings with curved edges housed displays from over 200 worlds. The air buzzed with excitement and the sound of dozens of different languages. Alan stood inside Earth's exhibition hall, watching as the final touches were added to the human display. Large screens showed peaceful scenes of Earth, children playing in parks, scientists working together in labs, artists creating beautiful works. Not one image showed competition or conflict. "It looks good," Director Simmons said, appearing beside Alan. "Our section opens in 2 hours. The Valduran High Council will visit first, then the general public." Lisa approached them, her face tight with worry. "I just saw the official schedule. Our documentary plays on the main screens throughout the capital during the opening ceremony." "Perfect," Simmons nodded. "Olivia's film shows exactly the version of humanity we want the galaxy to see." Alan watched a group of Valdurans glide by, their 4 arms moving in graceful patterns. He felt a now familiar twist of guilt in his stomach. These people had shared their true culture, their real history. In return, humans offered a carefully edited fiction. In a small control room on the far side of the exhibition center, Ryan Cortez slipped past a distracted Valduran technician. He had arrived 3 days earlier with the supply ship, posing as a technical assistant for the Earth delegation. No one questioned his presence. Humans all looked similar to most Valdurans. Ryan pulled a small data crystal from his pocket. It contained Olivia's original unedited documentary, The True Human Spirit. He hesitated only briefly before inserting it into the main control terminal. With a few quick commands, he replaced the scheduled file with Olivia's honest version. "Sorry, Director Simmons," he whispered, "but some truths need to be told." He set the system to begin playback automatically at the scheduled time, then slipped out of the room. By the time anyone realized what had happened, he would be lost in the crowd. An hour later, the vast central plaza of the Valduran capital filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Floating platforms carried ambassadors from worlds with different gravity needs. Translation devices hummed quietly, converting the Valduran High Elder's welcome speech into hundreds of languages. "Today we celebrate diversity, knowledge, and the peaceful sharing of cultures," the Elder said, her voice gentle but carrying across the plaza. "Let us begin with our newest allies, the humans of Earth, who have traveled far to join our galactic community." The massive screen surrounding the plaza lit up. The documentary began with a view of Earth from space, a beautiful blue marble hanging in darkness. In the crowd, Alan relaxed slightly. This was the beginning of Olivia's approved version, but his relief lasted only seconds. Instead of shifting to scenes of cooperation and art, the screen showed something entirely different. A sports arena filled with thousands of cheering humans appeared. 2 fighters circled each other in a cage, throwing powerful punches and kicks. "The human competitive spirit drives us to test our limits," a narrator's voice explained as the screen showed football players crashing into each other, marathon runners pushing through pain, and chess players locked in silent battle. Around Alan, Valdurans began making distressed sounds. Some backed away from the screens. "What is happening?" Ambassador Zoltek asked, his voice shaking. "These are combat activities." On screen, the documentary shifted to historical footage. Soldiers in World War II storming beaches, tanks rolling across deserts in more recent conflicts. "Throughout our history, humans have engaged in warfare," the narrator continued. "While we have worked to channel our aggressive instincts into more productive outlets, competition and strategic conflict remain part of our nature." "Turn it off," Simmons shouted, pushing through the crowd toward the control center. But the damage was done. For 3 full minutes, the unedited documentary played to the shocked audience. It showed hunting practices, martial arts competitions, even children playing capture the flag. All activities that revealed humanity's predatory origins. When officials finally managed to stop the playback, a terrible silence fell over the plaza. The Valdurans stared at the humans in their midst with new eyes, not with hatred but with something perhaps worse. Fear. Ambassador Zoltek approached Director Simmons slowly, keeping unusual distance between them. "You deceived us," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Your species has practiced organized warfare. You are predators." "We are peaceful now," Simmons insisted, his face pale. "Those images showed our past and regulated competitions, not our present relations with other species." But the Valduran security forces were already moving, surrounding the human delegation. They did not draw weapons. Valdurans rarely carried them. But their posture had changed. They now watched the humans as one might watch a dangerous animal that could attack at any moment. Alan found himself separated from Lisa in the confusion. Eliza appeared at his side, looking troubled but not surprised. "You knew," Alan said. She nodded. "I suspected. Your biology, your language, your arts, all showed signs of predatory evolution that your delegation tried to hide." "We're not just killers," Alan said urgently. "Yes, we evolved as predators, but we've developed ethics, laws, compassion." "I believe you," Eliza replied. "But the High Council may not be so understanding. Deception is viewed as a prelude to aggression in our culture." Across the plaza, an emergency meeting of the Valduran High Council was quickly assembled. Alan watched as Ambassador Zoltek was called inside the towering government building. The humans were instructed to remain where they were, under watch. When Zoltek emerged an hour later, his face was grim. "The cultural exchange program is suspended," he announced. "All humans will be restricted to designated areas until the Council decides how to proceed." "This is an overreaction," Simmons protested. "Is it?" Zoltek asked. "You hid your true nature from us. How can we trust anything you say now?" As security forces began escorting humans to a separate building, Alan saw Lisa in the crowd. She caught his eye and mouthed words he could barely make out. "Now what?" Alan had no answer. In one afternoon, years of careful diplomacy had collapsed. The peaceful Valdurans now viewed humans as potential predators loose in their midst. And the worst part was, from their evolutionary perspective, they weren't entirely wrong. That night, locked in a comfortable but closely monitored room, Alan watched reports spreading across Valduran news networks. Some called for immediately ending all contact with humans. Others suggested studying humans as dangerous but fascinating creatures. A few brave voices argued for understanding and continued relations. The alliance that had seemed so promising now hung by a thread. And somewhere, in the building, Ryan Cortez watched the chaos he had unleashed, wondering if truth had been worth the price. News of the incident spread quickly across Earth. Government leaders held emergency meetings. News reports showed the Valduran capital and the human delegation now under what they called protective observation. On the Valduran homeworld, Alan sat in a comfortable room that felt very much like a cell. The door wasn't locked, but 2 Valduran guards stood outside. They called themselves safety monitors rather than guards, but the effect was the same. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal a Valduran official Alan hadn't met before. Dr. Pierce, I am Renlo, Special Advisor to the High Council. I need to speak with you. Alone. Alan followed Renlo through quiet hallways to a small room with a table and 2 chairs. Unlike the blue lighting used in most Valduran spaces, this room had bright white light that reminded Alan of an interrogation room. Please sit, Renlo said. I have questions about human aggression. I'll answer honestly, Alan replied. That seems important now. Indeed. Renlo blinked slowly. The documentary showed humans engaged in something called mixed martial arts. Fighters caused each other pain deliberately. Is this common? It's a regulated sport with willing participants, safety rules, and medical staff present, Alan explained. The fighters choose to compete. Choose to hurt and be hurt? Renlo seemed genuinely confused. Why? Alan thought carefully, before answering. Humans evolved as predators. Our bodies produce chemicals during competition that feel good. We enjoy testing our limits. But we've created rules and structures to channel these instincts safely. And warfare. The images of what you call World War II showed mass destruction. Yes. We have fought terrible wars, Alan admitted. But we've also worked hard to prevent them. The United Nations, international law, diplomatic relations, these are all systems we've built to redirect our competitive instincts into peaceful channels. In another room across the building, Lisa Wright faced similar questions from a panel of Valduran psychologists. They showed her images from the documentary and asked her to explain each one. This activity, children chasing each other, is preparation for hunting? One psychologist asked. It's just a game called tag, Lisa said. Children play. It helps them develop coordination and social skills. By pretending to be predator and prey? Lisa sighed. Perhaps at some deep level, but mostly they're just having fun. Meanwhile, in the Valduran High Council chamber, Ambassador Zoltek addressed the governing body. We must decide how to proceed with the humans, he said. Some of you have suggested ending all contact. Others want to maintain relations but with stricter protocols. An older Valduran rose to speak. They are predators who hid their nature. This suggests planned aggression. The Alliance has always avoided predator species that still practice warfare. Another council member disagreed. But humans have built impressive technologies and art despite, or perhaps because of, their competitive nature. There may be benefits to limited contact. They lied to us, someone shouted from the back. Ambassador Zoltek raised all 4 hands for silence. Yes, they concealed aspects of their nature. But consider, if they truly meant us harm, why seek alliance at all? They have weapons that could destroy their own world many times over, yet they've never threatened us. On Earth, Olivia Martinez sat in a government office facing angry officials. Your documentary has caused an interstellar incident, one said coldly. My documentary told the truth, Olivia replied. I created the sanitized version as ordered. Someone else chose to show, the honest one. We've identified your assistant, Ryan Cortez, as the person who switched the files. He's still on the Valduran homeworld. Olivia looked down at her hands. Ryan believes in transparency, as do I. Transparency may have cost us the most important alliance in human history. Back on the Valduran homeworld, Eliza had organized a meeting of xenobiologists and cultural researchers who had studied humans. They gathered in a university hall, away from government buildings. We need to share what we've learned about humans, she told the group. The High Council is making decisions based on fear, not understanding. One researcher displayed genetic information on a large screen. Humans did evolve as predators, but look here. Their cooperation genes are highly developed. They form strong social bonds. They care for sick and injured members. They mourn their dead. Another added, their art shows constant tension between their aggressive and cooperative natures. They are aware of this duality and struggle with it consciously. Many predator species simply kill, Eliza said. Humans channel their predatory instincts into structured activities. Their competitions have rules. Their wars, terrible as they are, have laws governing conduct. Are you suggesting we continue relations with them? Someone asked. I'm suggesting we judge them by their actions toward us, not by their evolutionary history, Eliza replied. Her words spread beyond the meeting. By evening, debates raged across Valduran media networks. Some citizens demanded humans be sent home immediately. Others argued for understanding and continued diplomatic relations. 3 days after the documentary incident, Alan was summoned to meet with Ambassador Zoltek. The High Council has reached a decision, the ambassador said. Limited engagement with humans will continue, but under stricter protocols. What kind of protocols? Alan asked. All human visitors must undergo cultural education about Valduran sensitivities. We will establish observation stations near Earth to monitor for aggressive expansion, and we require complete historical and cultural transparency moving forward. Alan nodded. Those seem like reasonable precautions. Some council members wanted to end all contact, Zoltek admitted. They see your predatory instincts as too dangerous. But others argued that your very drive, your competitive nature, might be valuable in certain situations, such as, the galaxy is not entirely peaceful, Dr. Pierce. The Valduran Alliance has encountered other predator species less restrained than humans. That evening, Alan and Lisa were allowed to meet in a garden area. The air was filled with the sweet scent of alien flowers. 2 guards watched from a distance. I heard they're not cutting ties completely, Lisa said. No, but trust is damaged, Alan replied. They'll be watching us carefully for a long time. Can you blame them? We did lie. Not a complete lie. We just showed them one side of humanity. Lisa smiled sadly. But we're not just peaceful creators and explorers. We're also fighters and competitors. It's part of who we are. Maybe that's what they need to understand, Alan said thoughtfully. We can be both. Our capacity for aggression isn't separate from our creativity and determination. They're connected. In his quarters that night, Alan drafted a proposal for a new kind of cultural exchange, a series of honest conversations about the differences between human and Valduran evolutionary paths. If the Valdurans truly wanted to understand humans, they needed to see all sides of human nature. The drive that pushed humans to climb mountains, explore space, and yes, sometimes fight wars. As he worked, news arrived that the Valduran High Council had agreed to hear his proposal. It wasn't much, but it was a start. A small opening that might allow 2 very different species to truly understand each other. 3 weeks passed since the documentary incident. The Valduran capital still buzzed with discussions about humans, but the initial fear had begun to fade. Alan's proposal for honest cultural exchange had been approved by both human officials and the Valduran High Council. Today would be the first public conversation between the species since the revelation of humanity's predatory nature. Alan stood backstage in the grand hall, adjusting his collar nervously. The room outside was filled with hundreds of Valdurans who had come to hear him speak. Lisa appeared beside him, offering a supportive smile. Ready? She asked. As ready as I'll ever be to tell an audience of peaceful aliens that humans like to compete and sometimes fight, Alan replied. Just be honest. That's what got us into this mess, but it's also the only way out. When they walked onto the stage, Alan was surprised to see Eliza already there, arranging display screens. Ambassador Zoltek stood at the front, addressing the audience. Today begins a new chapter in understanding between our peoples, the ambassador said. No more diplomatic filters, no more careful editing, just truth. Alan stepped forward to speak. The hall grew quiet. My name is Dr. Alan Pierce. I'm a human anthropologist. And yes, humans evolved as predators. He paused, watching the audience. Some shifted uncomfortably. But that's not all we are. Over the next hour, Alan and Lisa presented the full story of human evolution. They showed how early humans had hunted in cooperative groups, how competition had driven innovation, how warfare had led to terrible destruction, but also to peace treaties and international laws. Humans channel our competitive instincts in many ways, Lisa explained, showing images of sports, debate competitions, and business rivalries. These activities allow us to test our limits without causing real harm. A Valduran in the audience raised a hand. But you enjoy watching conflict? The documentary showed crowds cheering for fighting? Yes, Alan admitted. Competition excites us. Our bodies release chemicals that make us feel good when we overcome challenges or watch others do so. Another Valduran asked, "Does this mean humans will eventually become violent toward other species?" "We have strong ethical codes against unprovoked aggression," Lisa answered. "Our competitive nature is usually directed into constructive channels. The fact that we've had weapons that could destroy our entire planet for decades, yet haven't used them, shows our capacity for restraint." After the presentation, Eliza shared her research on human biology and culture. "Humans are not simple predators," she concluded. "They are complex beings who struggle consciously with their dual nature. Their art, literature, and philosophy show constant exploration of the tension between aggression and cooperation." That evening, Alan received surprising news. The Valduran High Council had voted not only to continue relations with humans but to expand certain types of cooperation. "They want to learn from us?" Alan asked Ambassador Zoltek in disbelief. "In limited ways, yes," the ambassador replied. "Your capacity for strategic thinking in competitive situations could be valuable." "I don't understand. Just weeks ago they were ready to cut all ties." Zoltek's expression grew serious. "Something has happened that I am now permitted to share with you. A Valduran science vessel was attacked 3 days ago by the Krell." "The Krell? Who are they?" "An expansionist species we've had difficult relations with for centuries. They are territorial and aggressive, not unlike humans in some ways, but without your ethical restraints." Alan understood immediately. "You want our help dealing with them?" "We want your perspective," Zoltek corrected. "Valdurans evolved to cooperate in the face of natural disasters. We have little instinct for competition or conflict. When faced with aggressive species, our tendency is to retreat or appease." The next day, human military advisors arrived from Earth to meet with Valduran officials. They did not bring weapons but instead offered strategies for diplomatic negotiation with aggressive species. Ryan Cortez, who had been under house arrest since the documentary incident, was unexpectedly released. He found Alan in the garden. "They're letting me go home," Ryan said. "No charges." "Your actions caused a lot of trouble," Alan noted. Ryan nodded. "I know. But I still believe the truth was necessary." "It was," Alan admitted. "Just not the way you did it." Later that week, Lisa organized a presentation showing how human aggression had been increasingly channeled into productive outlets throughout history. Competitive sports had replaced warfare in many instances. Debate had replaced physical fights. Business competition had replaced territorial disputes. "Humans aren't becoming less competitive," she explained to an audience of fascinated Valdurans. "We're finding better ways to express that drive." The most surprising development came when a Valduran ship encountered Krell vessels near a disputed star system. With human advisors helping develop strategy, the Valdurans successfully defended their research outpost without escalating the conflict. Ambassador Zoltek invited Alan to his office afterward. The windows looked out over the beautiful Valduran capital, its white buildings glowing softly in the evening light. "Your people's advice proved valuable," the ambassador said. "For the first time in our history, the Krell retreated without us giving up territory or resources. Sometimes standing firm prevents further aggression," Alan replied. "A concept alien to Valduran thinking." Zoltek made a gesture of appreciation with his 4 hands. "Perhaps this is the balance we can find between our peoples. Your strategic thinking complements our cooperative nature." 1 month after the documentary incident, a new project began. Olivia Martinez arrived on the Valduran homeworld, this time invited officially. She would work with a Valduran historian named Tevra to create a truly honest documentary about both species. "No more sanitized versions," Olivia promised when she met Alan and Lisa. "Just the truth about who we are, the good and the challenging." On her first day, she also met with Ryan, who had been allowed to stay as a cultural liaison. "Your stunt," Could have ended everything, she told him. Or it opened the door to real understanding, he replied. Sometimes you have to break things to rebuild them better. 6 months later, as Alan prepared to return to Earth after completing his exchange program, he stood by a window on the Harmony Seeker, watching the Valduran homeworld grow smaller. Eliza joined him for a final conversation. What have we learned from this experience? She asked. Alan thought carefully before answering. That different evolutionary paths lead to different strengths. That honesty, even when difficult, builds stronger bonds than comfortable fictions. And that sometimes what seems like a weakness, Valduran non-aggression or human competitiveness, can become a strength when our peoples work together. As Earth came into view, beautiful and blue against the blackness of space, Alan realized that humanity's full nature, both peaceful and fierce, might ultimately be its greatest contribution to the galactic community. Not despite their predatory origins, but because of them. The very drive that had once made humans dangerous hunters now pushed them to explore, discover, and protect. The truth had nearly ended everything. But in the end, that same truth had opened the door to something better, a more honest and complete understanding between very different peoples among the stars.